Okay. Hey, Andy Schectman. Good seeing you, man.
Good to see
Welcome.
you too, brother. Good to see you too, Todd. It's crazy just how much change we see in the span of a week or two. And when I started doing these podcasts, things would spin very slowly,
Yeah,
and there would be a new topic to talk about every few weeks. Now
right.
it's every few hours, it seems. So yeah, lots to talk about. Good to be back again.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let me do this real quick. I just want to go over here and take a look at this. I kind of want to open up these just on a weekly basis to where we can just say, where are we at this week with gold? It looks like we're at 1989. Looks like there was quite an increase here. Might that have had, or is that, this is just, oh, this is only, let's go to 1 month just to see. Okay, look at that. Look at that steady rise. Any of this have to do with the Middle East, Andy Schectman?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got a $142 increase there. There's no question that that has a large um, component, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
of of the central banks and of the world realizing that gold is certainly a place to go in times of uncertainty, in times of war or whatnot. But I think it's even deeper than that too. I think if you take a look at what's going on, look from a historical point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Government bonds being used as savings vehicles from historical point of view is a relatively new concept, and I think it's been fading. We saw the bond market over the last couple of years represent probably the worst bond market, bear market in history. And I
Okay.
think it's no coincidence that the worst year ever for US Treasuries also saw the highest central bank gold buying in over 55 years. And if you take a look at what they're doing right now as we speak, on top of them buying more gold over any time, literally in the last, well, ever, really, those numbers are up 18% this year. I think it's 18%.
Wow.
Year over year, they've bought over 800 tons already in the first 9 months of this year. So you have not only the most well informed, but the most well funded traders on the globe who are continuing to put a floor under the price of gold, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Well, let's take a look at this just to be fair to our little friend Mr. Silver. 2283. So we're seeing similar action, right? That's going up. So they're tracking similarly, which is kind of no surprise, right, Andy?
Yeah, actually, it is a surprise to me in the respect that,
Oh,
yes, they're following each other. That's not the surprise. In fact, throughout all of history, silver and gold have a roughly 90% correlation in movement
okay.
throughout all of
Okay.
history. But
Okay.
if you look at the macro picture and look at a 5 year or 3 year chart of gold, you'll see, and silver compared, you'll see that gold has really outperformed silver and in terms of its movement, which is normal. I mean, normally we see gold go first and then silver go further in terms of a percentage gain. But when you look at silver right now at below half of its 1980 peak and gold with within 10% of its all-time high,
Right.
uh, there's a little bit of a disconnection right there. And
Mm,
there have been some articles that I find very intriguing lately
okay.
that have me thinking an awful lot about why this is. And one article in particular was written by the Pickaxe, and his name is John Little, and he's a very smart man. And I
Mm-hmm.
have a hard time disagreeing with what he's saying. And basically, the whole premise of what he is saying is that it has been the military industrial complex that for many years has been holding down the price of silver in order to build their weapons, their bombs, their missiles, their planes, their submarines, their rockets, their nuclear weapons, their torpedoes, all of these things, these very, very high tech
Yeah.
weaponry systems have silver in their guidance system or in the body of the
Sure.
of the missiles. And
Mm-hmm.
I've often said there's 500 ounces in the tip of a Tomahawk cruise missile. You can Google that; it'll pop right up. But what John has done is really expand upon this, and it makes sense to me. Now, I don't know
Okay.
this to be empirical evidence. I don't know this for sure. But when you think about it, when you think about the fact that silver is a very, very important metal. We understand that in digital and green applications, it's experienced a renaissance in monetary applications. It's dominated the amount of sales this industry has done for the last 3 years. It's probably 90% of all the business we've done, if not more. We've
Really?
had record year after record year after record year. We're going to do close to $1 billion in sales this year.
That's
And
amazing.
most of it has been in silver, and yet silver has underperformed. And when you think about it, in a world that's kind of off the hook, in a
Yeah.
world where gold is doing very well, you would think silver would be following part and parcel. But if you believe what the pickaxe is saying, that look, that the suppression in the price of metals, he argues, is done to hide the fact that these weapons use 10 to 15 to 20 times more silver than we are being told. And that is used in all of these industrial applications that we're being told about in solar and photography, electric vehicles,
Right.
et cetera. And so that this was an intentional, has been an intentional act.
But how do they suppress it? I mean,
So I can easier explain it to you in gold, but the same thing is true in silver.
okay.
And so let's say I own 5,000 ounces of gold in my warehouse, right?
Okay.
And we probably own more than that, but let's just say it's 5,000,
All
and
right.
um, it's in my warehouse, and the price of gold falls by $100 an ounce. So you just saw it go up 140, and if you look back before that, it fell almost 200. And so let's say it falls $200 on those 5,000 ounces. I'm down $1 million.
Yeah, that's right.
And well, you go out of business if you speculate that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what we do is we take the other side of it on Comex. We do what's called a covered short. Covered meaning we have the metal right there. We're shorting on the other side to remain market neutral. So
Okay.
as my physical goes down by $200 an ounce, rendering my physical in-house gold down $1 million from what I paid for it, it goes up commensurate $1 million on what I sold short on Comex.
Ah,
Now, I asked my
fascinating.
head trader a few months ago, I said, Ryan, what does it cost for us to buy a Comex contract? And a Comex gold contract is 100 ounces of gold. A silver contract is 5,000 ounces of gold.
Okay.
Silver, rather, 5,000 ounces of silver. He said, well, the trade itself, Andy, is very small. It doesn't cost much, $6-7, but it's more a function of having money in our margin account. He says right now we have to have about $7,000 in our margin account in order to control a contract, which is in essence controlling $200,000. So
Right.
7,000 in your margin account, which doesn't even get margin called unless it goes against you. But imagine you are a commercial bank who is
Okay.
doing the work on behalf of the US government or whoever else they're doing it for with 500 million in your margin account. You now control 15 billion. It's about a 30 plus times leverage.
Wow.
You now control 15 billion in paper gold. And so the same thing is true in silver. So if you are a commercial bank, a central bank with unlimited resources, knowing the playbook, and in some cases, arguably been given a green light from the powers that be in order to do this, in order to support the bond market or in order to support the military industrial, uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, complex, or
Yep.
then if you have that kind of wealth, you can create a perception of reality. That is exactly how they suppress it. They suppress it with rhetoric, and they suppress it with price and leverage, and they do it in a counterintuitive fashion, knowing that the majority of the commodity traders on the planet and advisory services employ technical analysis. So if you violate moving averages, if you like the 200 and the 50-day,
Yep.
if you blow through all of these technical resistance levels, A lot of Wall Street, a lot of the commodity complex is controlled by non-emotional algorithmic black box programs, where if it passes this line in the sand, instantly it sells,
Okay.
and selling begets selling begets selling. So they do it knowing where everyone is positioned because the commercial banks typically are selling the options. They have deeper pockets,
Mm-hmm.
and they have the ability to control this with a tremendous amount of leverage. What is unique about the shorting of the gold market and the commercial banks who are accused of rigging it? Now, let's just
Mm-hmm.
say this isn't a conspiracy. JP Morgan, they have 3 traders in prison, including their head gold desk trader, Michael Nowak, for
Right.
manipulating the market. They're
Yep.
in prison. JP Morgan paid a $920 million fine to the Justice Department 2 years ago, at the time, the largest fine that they've ever levied for
Mm.
suppression of the metals market. But it's a situation where this is I don't think going to stop anytime soon unless we see massive deliveries off of Comex and the inability to continue to do this. And that's exactly what we have been seeing. Big deliveries are coming off of Comex, coming off the LBMA. The metal for them to be able to do this, it's disappearing. And so I think it's an
Yeah.
issue that I really do believe that it is an issue that we will see ultimately come to an end. But what has it enabled? It has enabled a lot of these very large institutions to de-dollarize, to accumulate copious amounts of gold and silver, do it in a very methodical fashion,
Yeah.
and using the suppression of the Western paper market against us. They're using our own leverage against us by standing for delivery, and I think this will continue until there are no more cheap ounces of gold or silver to be given away to these buyers, and then all of a sudden, the Comex market is exposed for what it is. I'll give you an example. Right now, the silver market, in terms of the registered category, those are the bars that are available for delivery, backing the contracts, are rehypothecated by a factor of 1,700%.
No
In other
way.
words, there's 1,700% more paper contracts than there are bars that could be delivered. That's exactly what the Hunt brothers
So,
noticed in
so,
1980.
so when you just said standing for delivery, can you unpack that real quick before proceeding? When
That,
you were
that
saying
simply
that,
means when you own a Comex contract, one of your options is to have the commodity delivered to you.
got it. So
So,
self custody, if you were an
well, I
individual.
mean, let's just say, for example, you know, the commodity exchange was developed originally to offset risk. Let's make it real easy to understand. You're a baker and you're in your bakery right now, and you're
Mm-hmm.
worried about getting flour for your bread and wheat for your bread that you
Mm-hmm.
need at the end of the year. And it's April right now, and I'm a farmer, and I'm worried about the growing season. I'm worried about the costs that I have, that I owe money on my combine and the diesel fuel, all this stuff I have on credit, and I have loans out against the
Right.
$800,000 combine and the seeds and the fuel and the labor and all of these things that I need to plant my crop, and I need to sell this. And if it's not a bumper crop, I'm in trouble. But guess what? You're the baker, and you have your concerns about getting your stuff. So we meet in the middle, and I say, you say, I'll pay you this. And I say, I'm happy with that. So I forward sell my production. I don't know what the
Okay.
growing season's going to be like. I'm
Okay.
selling it to you. You're saying, I'll take that. I'll buy it from you. I'll buy it from you in September, and I'm going to sell it to you, and you're going to take delivery in September. So in other words, it's the ability for the farmer to offset his risk and the baker to offset his risk. You get the flour guaranteed in September. I get a price that I'm happy with that takes
Yeah.
all the variability out. Now, it could be the best crop ever and I end up losing. Could be the worst crop ever and you end up losing.
Ah,
But that
okay.
is exactly what the Comex market was designed to do. So in this case, you are going to take possession of
Okay.
wheat
The
or of
gold. Oh,
flour
okay.
or of whatever it may be. So if it's in the case of gold,
Yeah.
you could buy a Comex contract, and then when it expires, you can say, I will stand for delivery. Please send me the gold instead of cash, if that's what it is.
Okay.
So it's an
And
option by where you can stand for delivery anytime you'd like. And now you have sovereign governments around the world who, many years ago didn't have the wherewithal to do this. Now they do, and they're saying, we don't care what you do to the price. We're going to take delivery. Thank you very much.
Got it. Got it. Now, you referenced the Hunt brothers. So can you give us a little history lesson on what happened there?
Sure.
I always find that story fascinating.
Well, in 1980, the Hunt brothers realized that there were more paper contracts than there were bars backing those contracts. And so they bought up as many contracts as they could and stood for delivery, realizing
Okay.
that there would be a problem there. The problem is that that's naked shorting. Naked shorting means you sell something that you don't have. And there's a lot of that right now. Like I said,
Yeah.
700% more. In other words, if there are 17 contracts, one gets paid and the rest get cash. One gets their silver, the rest gets the cash. It's even bigger, I believe, in gold. But the point of it is that, well, if that's the case, and I realize that, then if I buy all 17 contracts and stand for delivery, 16 of them may have a religious experience as they go into the open market and try to bid up or buy the metal. And I was saying something earlier, and somehow it skipped my.
It's my fault. I interrupted
No,
you.
but what I was saying was what is different about this market, and why I think it will end at some point, is that
Okay.
normally when you short the market, you short something that's falling in price. Think AMC and GameStop. They were
Okay.
getting crushed and everyone jumped on and kept shorting it, pushing it down lower and lower and lower and lower, right?
Right.
You're selling into a falling market.
Yeah.
It is very, very, very dangerous to short, especially naked. We are just basically speculating. Naked meaning when I short, it's covered. I got the ounces in my warehouse to short
Right.
on Comex so that one goes up, one goes down on market neutral. If I naked short, I'm basically, throwing a chip on the table saying,
Yeah.
I'm
Because
going
you
to
don't have the
bet.
gold. Because you
Right,
don't have the.
right. And so what the commercial banks do, and they rinse, wash, and repeat over and over and over and over again. And you would think by now that the managed money would wake the hell up and stop doing this. But
Yeah.
here's what happens. The managed money, the commercial banks will go long, and it's typically a zero sum game
Okay.
where the commercials go long and the hedge funds go short and vice versa. So if the commercial banks go long on the Comex and the price starts to go up, and when you think of commercials, JP, Citi, Goldman, they got all of the money and they know the playbook. They have very, very deep pockets. And
Yeah.
some people would say JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs are extensions of the Federal Reserve and the government, respectively.
Yeah.
Maybe they are. It's that revolving door. But anyways, so they go long. The price starts to go up. They push it through moving averages and resistance levels, triggers the buying that the algorithms say it's now in a bull zone. Go buy it. So the hedge funds, they go long. Now, when they go long, that means that the commercial banks are going short, right? They take opposite sides. So the commercial banks start to push the price up. The hedge funds jump in, the commercial banks take the other side. The price starts to rise as the hedge funds put more and more and more and more money into it. And as the price is going up, then what the commercial banks do is they start to short on their own. They'll short naked heavily a rising price. So as the price starts to go up, the commercial banks have enough money to overwhelm the hedge funds. They short, they overwhelm and bang, the hedge funds capitulate and sell. The commercial banks pickpocket the premiums on the options that they sold to the hedge funds. The hedge funds ride the price up, but when the commercial banks overwhelm the hedge funds by selling into a rising market, the market moves the other way. The hedge funds sell, they capitulate, they lick their wounds, they take their loss. But then the hedge funds, the commercial banks do it all over again. They start to go long because the hedge funds sell short and sell their longs. When they sell their longs and sell their shorts, who's buying them? The commercials, meaning they're going long and buying the long contracts that the hedge funds are selling. It's rinse, wash, and repeat. One of these days, now this was easy to do when no one globally was siphoning off all of the available supply, but that's going to end. It's ending. We're seeing massive deliveries off the Comex and the LBMA and the London Metals Association. And so one of these days, and I think it's growing to one of these final stage moments that we have here, the commercial banks will go long and they will not short the rising market. They'll go long because they are the most well-funded and well-informed traders on the globe, and they'll let it run because they've done the same thing forever. And what that means is the hedge funds will be short and the
Yeah.
price will go to the moon. And if there's not enough gold and silver back there to cover those short positions, when the hedge funds, after they start to realize some losses, they'll be cover, but there are no bars to cover. Now you go into the open market and pray someone is stupid enough to sell it to you. It will put hedge funds out of business.
Wow.
Like that. And that's the ultimate end game. And when there's no incentive to buy gold and silver, it's an easy game to play. But when the whole world realizes that, look, the accumulation of treasury bonds as a form of savings in a historical context, it's very brief. It's a very small period of time where the world thought buying government debt was a form of savings. And I think when you look at the last 3 years in the treasury market being the worst bear market in the history of bond markets, well, there's a realization that maybe gold is a better choice. And I don't think there's any coincidence that, you see the worst bear market in bonds ever coinciding with the most gold that the central banks have ever purchased.
Yeah.
So it's slowly moving in this direction. Being naked short in this market now is tantamount to doing the dumbest thing you could ever do. It's like building a mud wall.
Man, thank you for that. I mean, that's for the first time. I get it. That was very, very helpful for me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I just want to let people know, if you're paying attention, if you have ears to hear, I just want to let you know how you take advantage of a special offer that Miles Franklin has, that Andy has put out into the universe. If you go to decentralizeddirectory.com, of course, this is my channel, Decentralized Directory, my YouTube channel. And this is the website, decentralized, and just one D in there for directory. And if you go down here, we have our ready to decentralize, supporting or benefit today from key partners supporting decentralized solutions. If you click here, you'll just go to a dedicated page and you'll see right here, free Silver Eagle with $1,500 order. Miles Franklin is our featured partner. I will tell you what isn't working right now. If you click on this, it just goes right to milesfranklin.com without any context. If you go down here and you go to Miles Franklin Precious Metals Investment and click on Learn More, let's do that. Then you'll have a little word from me. You'll have a little bit of histrionic content from us. And then here's how to receive your free Silver Eagle. Simply email or call Miles Franklin and request a digital PDF of their current inventory. If you email, please include Todd sent me in the subject line. If you call, be sure to tell the certified precious metals broker, Todd sent me. Then, with an initial order of $1,500 or more, you'll receive a free Silver Eagle. So that's how you do it. So on the other links, it just clicks right to your site. I'm correcting that. I want it to come to this page to where it actually tells you how to be able to get this. And you can certainly go to the website, but the website, when you get this PDF, you're going to get better pricing and a greater amount of inventory, because the website, everybody out there knows websites are kind of hard to manage, and the world is changing so fast. It would be almost impossible for you to keep up on everything. But I just want to let people know how to be able to receive the free Silver Eagle, because I'm very grateful that you have graciously made that available to our viewing audience. So just wanted to stop there. And also, I just want to let everybody know I'm really, really excited about some events that are starting to happen. Andy, are you, I know you're aware of this upcoming Corporate Transparency Act. Are you familiar with that?
Actually, I'm not. Maybe you could enlighten me. I feel
my God.
I'm embarrassed.
It's the biggest grab by the feds in history. Let me just show you here. I want to go to it and show you. This is going to sneak up on you. It's going to sneak up on all of us. Let me do a screen share here, and let everybody know you're going to want to tune into my channel tomorrow, at noon, I'm going to have a former SEC attorney on, Jonathan Levy, and he is going to talk to us about this Corporate Transparency Disclosure Act that was passed in 2020. And you know what? That Trump was still in office and he didn't veto this. And none of the rhinos, nobody that's like, wanting to stand up for us, nobody said boo about this. Now it is law. And let me just go here. This is going to be so onerous. The Corporate Transparency Act will impose new significant reporting requirements for most U.S. companies starting in 2024. Many companies will be required to report and legally update beneficial ownership information that they may not currently possess. Companies will need to put in place policies, procedures, and likely amend their governing documents to ensure compliance. And what this means is, get this, Congress passed the CTA as part of a National Defense Authorization Act. Kind of rewind back to, Twin Towers tumbling and everything that followed from a legislation standpoint after that, right? It certainly wasn't anything that befriended those of us who seek freedom. According to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, this is really important. The purpose of the CTA is to better enable critical national security, intelligence, and law enforcement efforts to counter money laundering, of course, the financing of terrorism, blah, blah, blah. What this is going to require, if you are an LLC, a corporation, everything, I don't care if you're a single LLC, you are going to have to proactively report everything with that you don't have to do right now. That you don't have to. I mean,
what are they saying? Beneficial ownership of what?
Of your corporate structure, who owns what, and you're going to have to upload all of your CY. Yeah,
your people are trying to hide to become more anonymous under the shield of an LLC, as an example, and now that will have to be reported as to who is the beneficial owner.
That's right. That's right. So as the attorney I'm going to have on tomorrow, he wrote a little snippet. He said, biggest grab by the feds in history. States, not the feds, maintain company registries, but now you must register with FinCEN, produce ID, and reveal the beneficiaries. States ask for none of that. This affects the small and medium business owners. The big guys are exempt. So I just wanted to let people know this is blockbuster information. And what's gonna happen, Andy, is when it comes December, you're gonna have all of these ambulance chaser ads on TV saying, "Oh, if you haven't registered with FinCEN right now, call this toll-free number." And they are talking, when you read through this act, I mean, if you don't do this, they're coming after you. I mean, they're talking about like $5,000 a day fines and jail time up to 2 years. This is a huge power grab, and nobody's talking about it. So, I mean,
yeah, it's the first I've heard about it. Thank you for shedding the light. I mean, it's just more and more and more the erosion of our liberties and privacy is happening as we move closer towards the central bank digital currency and all of the loss of privacy there. And, it doesn't surprise me one bit at all. And, they're trying to protect us and make us safer, right? So we should give up our freedoms and liberties in the name of safety and protectionism. Well, it doesn't surprise me. The noose is tightening.
So let's look at this. This is kind of interesting. What is a reporting company? Under the CTA, a reporting company is defined as a corporation, a limited liability complex, or any other entity that is one, formed by filing documents with the Secretary of State or similar office of the state, or an Indian tribe. Wow, that's a big deal, because the Indians have always operated independently, formed under the law of foreign country and registered to do business in the United States. So here are the exempt companies. These exemption includes publicly traded companies, because I guess they report to the SEC already, banks, credit unions, government entities, the Druid Babylonian bastards, Andy, insurance companies, of course, securities brokers, public utility companies, certain investment advisors, probably not you, Andy,
Yep.
venture capital fund advisors, accounting firms, pooled investment vehicles, inactive entities, tax exempt entities. Based on that, somebody might want to go to decentralized directory and check on the key partners supporting decentralization and just kick around the tires a little bit of the area that talks about tax advantage strategies. I might even know a thing or two about that. Subsidiaries of exempt entities. That's interesting. So you can have a tax exempt entity and then create a subsidiary that would be an LLC. And it would still be tax exempt. That's interesting. So this is going to be loophole abound. But the message is nobody's talked about it. Nobody knows about it. And so we are in November, and this is enacted. It has to be done. You have to have your reporting done by January 1st. So it's going to be, excuse my language, a real shit show between now and the end of the year. So sorry about that, but I want to let everybody know that. And the last thing I want people to know, and you're going to be excited about this, especially people who have been following me for the last 3 years and are familiar with Todd Lewis. He and I did the Quest for Superior Money over about 40 episodes a year ago. On Wednesday, we're going to begin a new series with Todd Lewis called Unpacking Decentralization, where we explore the question, is decentralization only about crypto? The answer is no. I have a guest on today, Andy Schectman, CEO, founder of milesfranklin.com, who knows a little bit about decentralization of financial assets. And Andy, if somebody is watching right now and may not have any experience with precious metals, can you just give a little bit of insight as to why they might want to take some of their melting green money and get into precious metals? I appreciate your insight on that.
Well, I mean, in speaking in terms of decentralization, precious metals are a few of the only commodities or assets on the planet, especially those that have a historical context, that are not simultaneously someone else's liability. There's no counterparty risk.
Right.
And that's a big deal here in terms of, you look at cryptocurrencies in your own possession, you look at precious metals, they both have the same thing, a lack of counterparty risk. And that's certainly very, very important. To me, it's not about becoming wealthy. Todd, I mean, gold and
Right.
silver to me are wealth. Of course, if you own enough, arguably you're wealthy, but we own it because the dollar is being destroyed right out from under us. They've printed more money, we have, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, in the last 4 years than in the history of the country preceding it. You mix that in with suppression of interest rates for a decade, creating anomalies in asset prices.
Right.
And I think when you see the bond market, which is for big money, the traditional form of savings, have its worst year ever in conjunction with the central banks, the most knowledgeable and most well-funded traders on the globe, buying more than any time ever, there's no coincidence here. So I think what you are seeing is a system under strain, under stress, with great uncertainty, and really a world that is looking to dollar alternatives. And when you take a look at the infrastructure around us, in particular the banking system, which is very over leveraged and very undercapitalized, which I believe is on razor's edge. And I've been very consistent in saying, I believe even before the year ends, we will see another bank fail, which will be bailed in instead of bailed out. And if you don't know what that is, you better research it. It was written into law in the Dodd-Frank Act. When Silicon Bank was bailed out, it was illegal. And this is the outrage. That's why there was so much outrage around bailing out. Silicon Valley Bank should have been bailed in, where you are an unsecured general creditor of the bank. Anyways, the bottom line is you own gold because it is wealth that has outlived everything the world's ever thrown at it.
Yeah.
And I've said with you before, through 2 world wars, German hyperinflation, the Great Depression, every pandemic, everything that's ever happened. And yet it's significant enough, irrespective of its dollar-based price, where the biggest money in the world is on a buying spree, using the
Right.
leverage of the Western system's manipulation to accumulate it. And I think that that's very, very, very important, that we are being misdirected into
Hmm.
traditional financial assets as the rest of the world's elite quietly tiptoe into the world's only other
That's
tier
right.
one reserve asset, that being
Yeah.
gold.
Wow. So if somebody new was coming in and let's say they wanted to get that free Silver Eagle and they said, yeah, I can afford $1,500. Um, would you counsel them to perhaps get some junk silver? What would your counsel be if you were, you know, speaking to your grandson who for the first time, you know, saved enough money, has $1,500, what would you tell him to buy?
Junk silver is fine for those people who don't know what it is. It's dimes, quarters, and half dollars minted prior to 1965.
Hmm.
It's slightly more subjective than other forms of silver, and subjective is not even the right word. It is there. People don't really understand that dimes and quarters and half dollars that are dated 64 and earlier are 90% silver by weight. And even
Yeah.
with that said, how much silver is in a dime or in a quarter? Now I could tell you, but most people don't get that. If you realize that there's 0.00715 ounces of silver in a dime, 14 of them is almost exactly an ounce, pure
Okay.
silver. Little less straightforward. If it were me,
Yep.
what I would buy, and especially right now, because you have many states in America that are passing laws that are allowing gold and silver legal tender coins issued by a sovereign government. Most of them say any sovereign government. And
Hmm.
the ones that really count would be the United States, Canada, Austria, Australia, South Africa, and the United Kingdom. You got the
Okay.
eagle, the maple leaf, the Krugerrand, the kangaroo, the Philharmonic, and the Britannia. But I would buy silver eagles right here.
Okay.
The
Yep.
U.S. silver eagle, if you can see that, I know the light is kind of. Anyway,
Yep.
it's a brand new coin. I'm sorry for the lighting. Let me do this. I wonder if I can make it easier to see. I know that's kind of crummy. You
Yeah.
can't see it, but
They're beautiful. Pull it back from the light a little bit.
let's try
Just
this. Can you see
there
that any
you go.
better?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
this is a silver eagle. It's 1 ounce of pure silver. It's legal tender as is. And you have states around the country, Idaho and Wyoming and Missouri and North Carolina and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Texas and Alaska and on that are saying this can be used as legal tender for all debts, public and private, including paying your property taxes. And most of the states read it is the melt value of these coins plus any perceived market premium that will be used. You walk into the into a state office in Texas and the county tax assessor and pay your property tax with these. So for me, even though they're not the cheapest way of buying it, I think
Right.
we are moving to a place where it is recognized as wealth. If I had my druthers, I would buy silver and gold eagles all day long. Now,
Okay.
you want a better value, there are better values out there in terms of its dollar value, but I think there's something to be said for owning government issued silver coins. So you could buy a
Yeah.
Krugerrand or a kangaroo or a Philharmonic for a couple bucks less than this, a maple leaf for a buck and a half less than this. If you're looking for bigger bang for the buck, that's the road I would go on. But if I had the right to choose, I'd buy the silver and gold eagles. To me, it's the best choice right now in this environment and in a country that is moving some of it anyway into accepting gold and silver again as money.
That's great. And I will tell everybody that when you get a delivery of a tube of those in the mail and you put your hands around it and you're like, man, if I punch somebody in the nose with this,
Well,
I'm
and
just,
to your point, you feel gold and silver. It has that different feel.
it
Almost
does.
resonates with you. Man has been in search of it for almost 6,000 years. It's
Yeah.
basically in our DNA, but that's why it's been wealth all that
Do
time
you,
because you can't mimic that feel.
do you know what I have done with I only have one grandson. I only have one grandkid at this point in time. But what I did, he's 7 years old and he lives in UK and he's going to be here like in a week. And his birthday's was Halloween. And what I have done ever since the beginning is I bought a sleeve of Silver Eagles, 20 of them in the sleeve. And ever since he was 1 year old, the first year I made a nice card and I put a silver eagle in there, and that was number one. Oh, and I also gave the tube to the parents. And on the second birthday, he got another one. And on the third, and on the fifth, I handed it to him personally over in the UK. And he was starting to get it. He was understanding it. He added the five. He counted out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 silver eagles. He put them in his thing. And now at 7, he knows he's coming expecting his 7th silver eagle. And then on his 18th birthday, I'll top it off with the other 2 and give him, he'll have the whole sleeve. But I think that's just something that people could do for their progeny that's really pretty cool. And I think it creates a cool bond. And you know what he told me? He told me, I'm going to do this with my grandson too. And I said, well, maybe do it with your son
God
or
willing.
daughter,
Yeah.
but he told me, and this warmed my heart. He said, but I'm never giving these away, Grandpa.
Well, and there's a very valuable lesson there, Todd. One, you're a hell of a guy, and you're a good grandfather, but that's a given. But
Thank you.
the lesson is one that I learned as a 19-year-old kid. The greatest gift my father ever gave me. We started this company together in a one-room office, the size of a closet. We borrowed $60,000 from my dad's best friend. He's the Franklin and Miles Franklin. My dad's middle name is Miles.
Awesome.
My parents sold their life insurance policies. We were the least likely cast of characters to have succeeded to get to where we are here. 34 years later, this February, 9 billion in sales. Somehow, by the grace of God,
unbelievable.
But what he said to me was, Andy, there's one rule and only one rule. If you don't follow it, I'll fire you. Now, I was 19 at the time. I'm like, all right, Dad, I can deal with what's your one rule. He says, you're gonna buy something like this every 2 weeks. I don't care if it's one coin. I don't care whatever it is. You will buy every time you get paid. You will buy some gold and silver. Period. Now, I've owned the company more or less outright for over 2 decades, but I've honored my promise to him. And every 2 weeks for 34 years, I have bought something. And it's amazing when you let the laws of compounding work for you and you accumulate wealth methodically. And wealth, and that's how you get ahead. You pay yourself first. So whether in this case you're teaching your grandson how to save, and the value of real money, to me, the greatest gift I've ever been given by my father is to understand what you're teaching your grandson and to force myself into paying myself first, no matter how little of an expenditure I spend, whether it's 1 silver coin or a monster box, it doesn't matter. You continue to pay yourself first, or there is no way you'll ever get out of the rat race. You have to do that because, just like building your credit score, if you don't continue to go into debt, your credit score falls. You have to pay that debt off. But, I was fortunate enough through saving my rear end and working in this industry for 34 years that I don't have much in the way of debt. And my credit score is not 800. But why? Why wouldn't it be if I don't have debt and I have savings and a good, decent income? Why? Well, because you have to continue to go into debt and pay it off. We're incentivized to go into debt. That's what we all are taught. This is the way you do it. Get your credit score up, go into debt, pay it off. The point of it is that what they should really be teaching us is not to go into debt, but to let the laws of compounding work for us instead of against us. Don't go into debt. Rather, pay yourself first. Get ahead. And when you do that, it's just a whole different experience. And when the passage of time, I bet you don't feel in your mind that you're old enough to have a grandson, but yet you do. You still feel like you're 19. I've spent time with you. I know how you really feel. Yeah. And all of a sudden we wake up and we're old enough to have a grandkid, but allowing that accumulation and that compounding to work for us very quickly can set the stage for financial freedom down the road.
It's kind of interesting. I bought a whole life insurance policy when I first got married. I was at the age of 23, and I bought a whole life insurance policy. It was, I can't remember if it was for like $150,000 or whatever, but and it was like $62 per month. Okay. I didn't pay into that. And a few years ago, when I decided to divest from my whole life insurance policies and my IRA and 401k and decentralize my wealth into assets I could take self custody on, I couldn't believe it. But that $60 a month that I never missed, it was $105,000 cash value.
That's the point,
It,
right? That's
it,
exactly the point. Pay yourself first. Be methodical about it, and that's the
yeah.
way to do it.
Hey, question for you, Andy Schectman. So 26 pay periods a year times 33 years, and you've religiously bought something. Is that something, and you don't have to answer this question, of course, but is that something that when you bought it, you put it somewhere, you forgot about it, and you haven't touched it? Or is it something that you bought it and there was a point in time to where I'm like, I am really glad I have this and I did this. Thanks, Dad, because now I can afford to invest in X where I wouldn't have otherwise.
The majority of what I have purchased over the years, I still have. Almost
Awesome.
all of it. I've traded some and swapped some. I'll tell you the best experience I've ever had where I did sell some was
Yeah.
in 2007. We had built a house in a suburb of Minneapolis called Maple Grove, and it was way out west of the city. And when I built the house or bought the house, the house was framed, and the couple that bought it got a divorce. So we walk into it, and we got to do all the interior ourselves, but the
Nice.
outside was done. And there was no one around us. I mean, we felt like we were out in Little House on the Prairie. We're out
Nice.
way out. By the time the house was completed, we could see uh, the survey posts uh, all around us, where I could hand a teaspoon of sugar to the homes behind me that weren't there when we bought them and didn't look like they would ever be. They were farm fields and pumpkin patches and all this stuff out in the middle of nowhere. And well, the farmers and the pumpkin patchers, they sold to the developers. And my wife at the time, after we were there less than a year, my wife is almost 9 months pregnant in the middle of winter in Minnesota. And I came home and I said, they're building houses all around us right now for less than we bought ours for in the same school district. We're out of here. We're leaving right now.
Yeah.
We're moving. And she said, the hell we are. I slept on the couch for several days. It was the worst fight I ever been in with my wife in all of
Wow.
the years I've been married. But I won the battle, and I put a for sale sign in our yard, and I lost money. But I walked away with, I had 300,000 in equity when I started it. I ended up with 225,000 in equity. I lost 75 grand and was thrilled. I mean, it was the top of the market. And I put all my money into silver at $9 an ounce. And I told my wife,
Wow.
we are going to rent. It'll only be a year or so. Turned out to be 6 years. I was off on the timing, but right on the direction.
How many years?
6. We rented for
Okay.
6 years, and then we built our dream house in Minnesota, turning $250,000 into over $1 million, and by letting silver run. And I trusted my gut when everyone told me I was an idiot.
That's awesome,
And
Andy.
so when you talk about spending some, not the stuff that I've been buying over the years, but there are times when you're darn glad you have a gold and silver, and it doesn't have to be for an emergency. It could be a hell of an opportunity. And
That's great.
But the
Yeah.
majority of what I've accumulated methodically over the years, I still have almost all of it.
Well, I want to tell one more story about this discipline, right? Of doing something every pay period. I want to flip it a little bit. I know my grandson is coming. He's going to be here next week. And about a week ago, I made the decision in my back property. I installed a food forest, and then there's this big area back there where the raccoons and the deer play and everything. And I know my back property, it's a reserve. Nobody will ever build on it, And when you look at it from Google Earth, it's like probably about 30 acres back there, right? I never thought about it. But the other day, I'm like, you know what? If I go out back with my machete and I just start chopping and dropping and just every day create a little bit of a trail, and then I would come back with my weed eater and weed eat it down. when my grandson comes, I mean, I've been doing this every day, actually morning and evening for like an hour each. I'm establishing some really cool trails back there to be able to go and take a walk. And I can't wait for him to come. But the discipline is not going out and saying, I'm going to create a trail system today. No, it's just, I'm going to go out and work for an hour,
Yeah.
get some exercise. And then yesterday I took my wife for a walk through there and she was like, how did you do this? I'm like, pretty well, honey.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because to me that you just encapsulated the bricks in that the West, we think in terms of today. The
Yeah.
BRICS, China, Russia, India, South Africa, now Saudi Arabia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Argentina, and the 27 other countries that have formally expressed interest, and the 22 others that have informally. Well, they do things methodically. In fact,
Yeah.
there was a lot of people were bummed out that they didn't issue their gold-backed currency that James Rickard said they would in August at their meeting in South Africa. They said, no, here's what we're going to do. We're going to trade amongst ourselves in local currencies for the next year. We're tasking the finance minister to go back to the drawing table. Do this the right way. Come back next year. Tell us your findings. Maybe we'll issue a unified settlement currency backed by gold next year. In other words, the intellect, the smart, the patient
Yes.
plots, thinks, does it the right way, methodically. They don't shotgun it and do it all fast and expect the results that they want. It's just like anything, exercising, dieting, building a relationship with your wife. Anything is done over time and done with thought and methodically. Right. There is no shortcut to building a pathway through your backyard, or to building a new world reserve currency, or to doing anything that has lasting effect. And I think
that's a beautiful segue. Thank you. I mean, that really brings it back to what this show is about on a weekly basis with you, Andy, and I really appreciate it.
I love being here too, Todd. And I think one of the things I want people to understand is that when people hear decentralization, they think cryptocurrencies. I want people to understand that cryptocurrencies and precious metals are, let's call them first cousins. That's right. They're cut from the same ideology. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be an either or. It should be both. And I think they both belong, especially now in people's portfolios. And the reasoning and the ideology is so similar that we should all be on the same side. We should be united.
Yes.
We shouldn't be divided, which gets me into a whole nother subject about this country. But in terms of the way that these two communities interact, they're the same message. The only deviation to me, and I would argue that if I were going to give any advice to the crypto community, it would simply be this: the difference in the way that I think we look at things. We look at things based upon the same data points and metrics: decentralization, government overreach,
inflation,
all of that stuff, right? Precious metals to me is not about getting wealthy. It is wealth. The cryptocurrency community, I think, thinks more about wealth appreciation. Indeed. Precious metals think about wealth preservation. So the way that they marry one another is the wealth appreciation siphon some of that appreciation off and put it into wealth preservation. Don't touch your principle. Just keep siphoning off some of the gain.
That's right.
Putting it into real money, just like I've done every 2 weeks. And before you know it, you have both, and a growing pile of both that are both speaking to the same issue, one making you money and the other helping preserve. I mean, in a perfect world, if I were drawing it up, that's how I would do it. And I don't think there should be antagonization between the two sides. We're both fighting the same fight, just using a different vehicle to get there.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I mean, Mike Adams and I do a show together called decentralized.tv. Please go sign up for that. Lots of great guests, including Andy Schectman. And of course, Mike Adams, he is the Health Ranger store. That's another one of our key partners supporting decentralization on decentralizeddirectory.com. You can go in there and click on the link and go and and acquire clean food from Mike, and start decentralizing your diet as well, and treating your body well, so that we can hang with our grandchildren, through the woods.
God
and
willing. Yeah,
yeah, but
absolutely.
I would share with people, of course, everybody, we need some green dollars to be able to have in the bank. Of course, I mean, we can't just totally be 100% outside of that now. But I think that if you had the discretionary savings, the first thing that you should do, I believe, is get a position in precious metals, gold and silver. And you haven't almost sold $10 billion worth of precious metals for nothing, man. And as I understand it, your favorite statistic in the world is you've never had a problem that wasn't resolved,
Yeah,
correct?
it's true. We've never had a customer complaint, a material customer complaint. We've made it, I'm sure we've made people angry. We try our very, very best to fix and remedy any problems or mistakes. And I think that's whether you're talking about a friend or a spouse or a man or a woman or a business, that's how we should be defined, in that human beings are imperfect, but it's
That's
the way
right.
you handle the situation. Do you accept accountability and responsibility? Do you make it right? Do you say, I'm sorry? Do you say, I see how
Oh
that
my
happened? I
gosh.
mean,
You have,
those
you
are the
have
things, you go a long way by saying, I'm sorry. It's our mistake. It's going to be fixed and in spades, and we're going to make this right, and it will never happen again.
amen.
You know what?
Man,
Anyone out there who has never made a mistake or have never said they're sorry, they're lying. But we're good at making it right and learning from our mistakes.
see, and that's the important thing, is that you don't deflect. And I think you and I have said it together, and you just said it. But I make it simple. The three most powerful sentences that you can string together at one point in time is, I'm sorry, I was wrong, please forgive me. That repentance leads to forgiveness, and it solves for a whole lot of woes that are out there. And thank you for presenting that, because those who are watching and are part of, if you go to Telegram, please visit t.me/epic private money. T.me/epic private money. Those who are in there know that we're dealing with some things which requires I'm sorry, I was wrong, please forgive me. And if that comes, then good things are going to happen. If it doesn't, then it is just going to be more of the same, and that's not going to be tolerated. Again, I'm sorry to insert that here, but your good words triggered that in me,
No
because
worries. It's
I
all
want
good.
to I want to reinforce it. I'm sorry, I was wrong, please forgive me. Not that hard to be
Remember,
able
for
to
all of
say.
us older people, you remember Happy Days and the Fonz.
Yeah.
I was,
Hey.
I'm so sorry. He could never say I'm
Yeah.
sorry. He could never say I was wrong. Yeah, but that's, I think that was tongue in cheek, that he wanted to say it. He knew he was wrong. He had a hard time doing it, but
Yeah.
by saying it, you immediately, everyone is always waiting for the conflict, especially nowadays, where
Yeah.
we're so divided, and there's so much dissension, or and that's not even the right word. We're at each other's throats constantly. The
Yeah.
divisiveness.
Divisiveness.
And
Yes.
by disarming someone, saying, you know what, you're right, I was wrong, I didn't look at it that way, I apologize, I'm sorry, we made a mistake, but here's what's going to happen. It's
Yeah,
going to be
that's
made
right.
right, and then some. And that goes a long way, I think, no matter how big the screw up is.
It's literally magic for those of you. And I know we have Kid Crypto in. He's like 12 years old, but he's mature beyond his years. Kid Crypto, this is the best advice you're ever going to get, man. I know you have like 17 brothers and sisters, but it's okay to say I'm sorry. It's very, very powerful. But the other thing I want to share with people, so get into start with precious metals, and you can call Mike at 952-929-7.
No, you call Andy, not Mike. He may
Geez.
not like that. He may not like that.
That was only the first time today. I'm
That's
getting
good.
better.
You're getting better. You're getting a lot better.
Yeah, call Andy 952-929-7006. And you can also email info@milesfranklin.com and request that PDF, and they'll send it to you, and then you can have different discussions with them. But secondly, I think you need to be able to get into crypto, but I'm talking private crypto. And for those of you who aren't technical savvy and it's over your head and you want a little help, that's what I'm here for. If you go to decentralizeddirectory.com, you can go down, you can book an hour with me, and we can discuss your overall lifestyle and do you want a decentralized strategy in your life? I can help you with that. And more importantly, what I help people with is being able to initiate tax advantage strategies that are going to help you keep more of what you earn. Can't go into the detail. That's what booking an hour with me is for. But I will tell you that the people who have taken advantage of that have been very, very happy.
I'll
So
tell you, I had dinner with my I just called you Mike with Todd um, not too long ago, and you blew my mind. And some of the tax saving strategies you told me about, it absolutely blew my mind.
yeah.
And so it's real. What he's saying is very, very real. And in the environment we are in right now, I expect, a country that is cash strapped and hungry for revenue, taxes aren't going anywhere but higher. So any way that we can
Yes.
save in taxes is great. And what you told
And
me
yes.
was mind blowing.
And it's in keyword lawfully. I'm never about tax evasion. It's all about lawfully being able to keep more of what you earn. I have realized, Andy, that at the beginning of my consultations, what I have started to do is, instead of telling them about this entity and what it is, I have to tell them what it is not. And what it is not is too good to be true, because that's where everybody ends up. They're just like, I haven't heard about this. What? How? But it is not too good to be true.
It's reserved for the elite, and the secret gets out little by little. But
yes,
you're not going to find this on on the evening news or on 60 Minutes. So,
and I'm sorry, when you ask your accountant attorneys, it's like you're speaking a different language, because they're trained by the IRS. That's the other thing, is people need to know the IRS has put everybody under the spell. And this, Andy, we discussed this, is if you and I never filed that initial W-2 in the first place, unless we live in Delaware or we have a government job, then we would have never been obligated to be able to pay taxes. But when you file that first W-2 and you pay those taxes, you then are on the hamster wheel, and you have entered into a contract forevermore with the Internal Revenue Service. And the strategy that I present helps you take one foot off of that wheel, at least.
No, maybe Kid Crypto can get ahead on that, because most of us who got our first job,
good point,
in junior high, filled out that first W-2. So, but yeah, I think what you have to say, most people really should listen to, and it's worth the hour. So I certainly opened my eyes, and I've been digging into it myself after
Beautiful.
our meeting. But anyways, I look forward to our weekly Thursday afternoon conversations. Todd and I really do believe that over the next several months, there's going to be so much more to talk about.
Oh my gosh.
More that is so important for people to hear. So I'm just honored to be here and look forward to coming back every single week. And
well, thank you.
These conversations, they don't always have to be about crypto or about gold and silver. They should very often be about what's happening in the world, because to me, the what is not as important as the why. The what
right.
is,
Great.
it's fun picking out the coin or which crypto, that will suit your needs. But the real thing that people need to understand is, well, why? Why do I even need to think of not being in a bank or not being in a brokerage account or owning crypto or owning gold? Why?
Yes.
And once you get to the why, well, the make and the model, that's the easy and the fun part. And
that's right.
There are discussions that I really get a lot out of. I hope people get a little something out of it, and we'll keep doing this. And
I do too.
We can help one or two people along the way, like Kid Crypto. Look, you got Kid Crypto. You got time on your side. You have a big advantage that a lot of us older people don't have. And if I only knew now what I knew when I was 14, it'd be a whole different world. But hey, boy, way to go. Keep it up. Keep paying yourself first, and keep listening to guys like Todd. And doing your research, and good things will happen. You'll be way ahead of the crowd. That's for sure.
Well, you're awesome, Andy Schectman. Thank you so much. I can't wait
Got
for
it,
next
brother.
Thursday. Everybody in the chat, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. And those who are tuning in later, we love you too. Comment in the chat. Please subscribe to the channel and do me a favor, share the channel with somebody in your life who you think might be interested in decentralizing their lifestyle. All right. In the meantime, please join us tomorrow at noon Eastern time. Going to have a former SEC attorney, still an attorney, Jonathan Levy, and he is going to come educate us, and you're not going to want to miss it. So, okay, Andy, thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too,
Cheers.
brother. Take
All
care.
right.